All right. Top of the morning, folks. Top of the morning. Chris Rockwell here, and it is early. It's almost 6 o'clock West Coast Pacific time. And I woke up early thinking about a lot of stuff, but I wanted to get into, kind of the meat of what's been on my mind in the last 18 months, really. And also what the transition has been, as far as being an artist, like a real artist at my core, ever since I was a little kid, I've just been kind of a creative kid primarily. I grew up around artists, athletes, and, you know, rough and tumble kind of guys, up in the logging hills. And, it was a lot of blue collar, hard, tough guys, so a lot of sports, a lot of football, and just competitive sports. So my art artist musician side of me was a little bit kind of you know kind of quieted for a long time. It came out in like pragmatic forms. I think that's why I spent so many years in the early technology world and digital world and um, media world. It was all it's all creative in its own way in terms of coming up with business concepts and all of that. But at the end of the day, how I'm built is I wake up and I think about the world creatively. I look at something and I wonder how it was created and who drew the the logo and all that stuff. So who made the music behind the film, all the pieces of it. Um, so as an artist and someone who has lived and worked inside Silicon Valley and being instrumental in developing innovative technology companies, that's part of a world I've lived. And then the other side of the world I've lived is, like I'm saying, I've just been like this really kind of a really typical kind of a shy artist, and so interested in creating ideas. And so new ideas, not just repeating things that are already out there. Like that's just something I've never, my brain doesn't find satisfaction in that. So I think what distinguishes an artist from a non-artist? I think just the way the brain operates in the day to day. You know, Trying to make sense of money and creative thought, they don't go hand in hand very easily. And so, I've lived in both worlds, and I've struggled in the financial, technical chase, and seriousness of the money and all of that stuff. The technical structure of business and how important it is to people for that end result of the money and not the creative innovation. It's like it's people. I heard a lot of rhetoric from money and like career obsessed people, status obsessed people in Silicon Valley and the big cities that I worked in, building innovative companies. But most of them were obsessed with just money and status. They weren't out. They say they were being creative and they want to do this and that, but they weren't. They were just totally obsessed with from A to B, from home plate to first base. Um, a creative mind doesn't work like that. Newsflash. So that's always been the clash between artists and money people, business people. I had to learn business because I'm an artist. Does that make sense? So I spent a lot of years having my art, my creative thought compromised, and worse, stolen. Like just and it's nothing new, man. Like not at all. It goes down in history as far back as it goes. And most artists and most engineer, sciencey people sell out to bad people with money because they're usually starving. and they're and they struggle with day-to-day life, typically, so a little bit, or challenged, at minimum. So it it's a it's an interesting personality, so what I'm getting at is I've experienced both sides deeply as a true artist and as a true entrepreneur who has been on the other side of developing very technical businesses, basically, that are backbones for and platforms for creative thought and development in some cases. Um, so that was all fine and good. I was living two different lives and two different personalities a lot of times as a business person, in Palo Alto one day, in Seattle, and then the next day I'm in the hood. Like I talk about, as a record producer, as a CEO of a record label, producing rap and hip hop. So that's extreme. It allowed my those experiences shaped my creative thought moving forward, believe me. And there wasn't going to be anything that was going to be modest or kind of watered down after those experiences. In fact, it really supercharged my creative juices because I saw so many people selling out for money and stock options and for really not, it just did not feel good, man. It just didn't feel authentic. Does that make sense? Because it just didn't. Um, I saw very few people who were living authentic. There are some, but there always are some, but there are always usually very few. So I was attracted to those few, and I was repelled by the majority in Silicon Valley and Seattle because they talked one way and they lived another way, which was they were pretty greedy and self-centered and self-seeking with money and status. And what the cost was an authentic life, right? So now we're talking about, you know, artificial intelligence and, the end of the world, and the propaganda does such a good job. When I say propaganda, folks, I'm talking about modern media, uh, mainstream consumption. And I don't just mean on a TV channel when I say mainstream media. I'm talking about on every digital platform and every platform that you can think of, right? So that's propaganda. It doesn't matter what side it's coming from, you know, it doesn't. It's propaganda. Um, it's called many things, but that's what it is. Very rarely is it authentic. So so here's the thing. My whole take on, as an artist, what I've gone through, as experiencing, especially being so deeply involved in technology, right? Like knowing what's coming down the pipeline, what exists, what's really going on in Silicon Valley, what's been going on in Silicon Valley and Seattle up there with, you know, some people up there, and in the valley, and the other two major places of dark forces of Los Angeles and New York, where I also spent a lot of time, in the music, art world, and technical media, and digital media. Um, Here's the thing. Today, like I went through. when artificial intelligence related to like the new like hyper speed introduction of artificial intelligence hit about 18 months ago, maybe a little bit less than that, but I'm going to say 18 months ago, when ChatGTP from OpenAI, from Mr. Musk, that soon people will realize is Barnum and Bailey 2.0. He's not saving the earth. Come on, you guys, wake up. Been talking about this for a long time. I don't want to get too deep into that, but what I'm trying to get at is another company, which is OpenAI, which is owned and controlled by, some really big people in Seattle and Silicon Valley, the biggest names you can think of, own and control this company. When they came out with ChatGPT and basically laid out the next 12 to 24 months, what it's going to look like and how AI is going to impact our society, and what the media has done to forecast the end of human validity on this earth and human value, because AI is so great. I personally went through it was like a shock to me, man. And it took me a minute. I went through a couple of months, and I remember I went through a couple of months where I felt very obsolete. And, hence the title of this live stream. As an artist, I felt really devastated. I felt like everything that I had been passionate about my whole life, music and writing and developing new, logos and brands, consumer brands and film projects. And I mean, all of those things instantly, in the way that it was being sold through media, was that all of a sudden the creative human was suddenly obsolete. And I was definitely not the only artist feeling like this. And I don't think I'm the only person, artist or not. I think we're all creative, by the way. I think fear is the block. And I think also, choice. Do we choose to explore our creative truth and that spark that's really in us, that authentic spark, creative spark of what we actually are as an individual, authentic individual? Or do we jump onto the treadmill and of life and go get that money and go buy those things? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a choice. And the minute that the chase of one happens, the other starts to get compromised. I've done both. Like, I've done both obsessively. So at times, so I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm talking about from experience. It's my experience. That's all I'm saying. But I've actually explored those two worlds, and I do know what the cost is on both sides, personally. That's why I feel that's why I felt the need to step off that treadmill personally myself, and leave those cities, get back to the country, and finish writing my book, Civil Bullets. And I released that in 2020. That was a wonderful year, wasn't it? Gosh, it had taken me 10 years to write that book, and the final year of finishing up writing it and editing it, building leading a new software startup at the same time, but finishing that book, during that time, these were some of the things that I was grappling with, and I was really focused on because I was involved in building another software company, So, and it was really, it's great. It's a great, purpose-driven, positive impact, software, green technology, repurposing wood wasted by the government and lots of other industries. So, and a great team, man. You guys are awesome. But so while I was doing all of that, I'm not doing that right now, and I'm done with my book. So I'm kind of in a new phase where that's what I'm talking about, all of these things now. It took me some time to kind of, after the release of the book, because of the other things that I was focused on, and eventually, transitioned. So now I'm able to focus, the majority of my time on the content of my book and what I wrote about, and expanding that work inside and outside of civil bullets. It's a framework that covers a lot. So at the end of the day, I wrote the book for me to kind of make sense of my life and my path, where I'd come from and what I had done, and good and bad, and where was I going? It's kind of like that. It's like for me, it was trying to figure out some stuff, walk through some things, but also make it an experience for the reader, especially the younger generations coming up, and guys my age, people my age, that's great too. But I also wrote it so, hopefully, some kid who's an artist and dreamer and an athlete and feels confused and which way to go and all that stuff can read the book and have a little bit of like, oh, okay, he got a little confused, and I see where he got off. Okay, cool. That's without making the hopefully saving a few mistakes along the way for someone else. That was also my intent. That's a big part of it. Again, you got a lot of you guys know, and some of you who are just meeting me along the way. My background as far as what I was raised around. My dad, he was a high school psychology teacher and a high school counselor, and he was a coach, and he was a father of 3 boys, and a special needs baby sister. More importantly, in terms of his lived example, still takes care of that child today. He's amazing. So does my mom. So really good people. My mom was a nurse, so just good folks who were doing good work and trying to give it away. You know what I mean? Like making a living, but not making a lot of money. We were just working class family, but trying to do the right things, So that's just kind of what I come from. So trying to give something back. That's why I wrote the book. It's a way of giving something back from what I was given. I was given a lot of love and encouragement, and I had a lot of good male and female examples around me, and enough contrast of other people's lives, and the way my parents interacted with different people and cultures all the time in our because of their jobs. It was just the way that they were just like that. They just liked people and were interested in like people, so, and helping. So it's not kumbaya to me. It's, hey man, the world's messed up in a lot of ways. There's some great things too. But we've got to figure out, some people have to speak some solution to some obvious problems. And I'm glad that some people are. And I'm glad that, I'm encouraged because, when I'm studying what's out there in the YouTube universe and outside of YouTube, but YouTube's a pretty big universe. So, what I am finding are a, a fast growing group of young people who are optimistic and do not agree that the world is ending. They feel excited. They feel alive in a way that is that challenges the bitter, dire, sky is falling propaganda that's being fed to them every day, just like us adults. So they inspire me, and it's not fake; it's real. They've watched their parents struggle financially from the day they were born. So these young kids they're on fire. They're out to they have money in perspective. They have and I'm talking about kids that are raised with some decent, healthy, relatively healthy kind of parameters, right? Kind of developmental basics. That group of people, not the ones who don't give a shit about anybody but themselves, no matter what their socioeconomic is, taking things that aren't theirs, whether it's money or stuff or good energy from good people. The job of an artist, the more I think about it all the time, the job of the artist in today's technocrat controlled reality, it's the matrix. If I hear that word one more time, I swear, okay, great. But that's part of the whole fear thing, that we're a simulation. So let's assume we are a simulation. I'm an artist, man. So let's get creative, right? So the argument is AI can create anything and do anything. The problem is that AI does not possess a spirit, a spark of any kind. So then the counter from people who are waving a blue flag at me about how much they care about people. I can tell you one thing: that's not the case. What the case is, the creative spirit is not in the technology sphere at all. It is not. That is all zeros and ones, and it has nothing to do with the human creative spark. So more than ever, an actual artist, a human being that is an artist and a creative person that actually manifests their creative ideas into this reality, that's something AI cannot do. It can simulate. It can simulate by regurgitating mixed data. So learning algorithms. Here's the thing: when Revenge of the Nerds rules the world like they do right now, and they have not been out on the field of competition and all the necessary factors of life, being able to just sit in an office or in their house with a laptop with their little gaming stuff and act like that's reality and that's the world, and you can be passively aggressive, cynical little punk bitch to and how you treat other people because you never have to face them face to face. Like, these are the people that are telling you and me as normal people that something's wrong with us and that we're obsolete. But the reality is, digidorks are going to become obsolete. They've commoditized themselves, and the technology has outsmarted them. Does that make sense? That's a newsflash to them. They have not gotten. They haven't done that. They didn't get that algorithm yet figured out. So as an artist, takes a lot of algorithms, spirit sparked, creative algorithms that no dork engineer with dorky intentions could ever create. Not ever. So they can write lots of good code for lots of stupid shit and make lots of money usually. But if you want to start talking about authentic creative work, let's go there. Like we can go there all day long. And what I found in Silicon Valley and Seattle and the tech world that is talking such big game about how the artist is now obsolete. Look at their lives and see what they have created and see how authentic and creative their life looks outside of what they can buy, because these guys can buy a lot of cool shit and people too. Lots of people. So, I'm fighting for the artist, the regular person who, has ideas and shouldn't feel beaten down and defeated by, what the media is telling us about how technology and artificial intelligence is, is ending, human creative, authentic work. Like, don't buy the hype, man. I think what the point is of what they're trying to do, one of the things is to paralyze and defeat, like to really just bum people out to the point where I went through it, man. I'm just fortunate that I'm able to take a hit and get back up, but a lot of people can't, and this kind of attitude out there and the propaganda that talks about this all the time. It affects people who are creative. And by the way, creative people are just typically more emotional anyway. So, it takes its toll, especially spending, like I did, spending way too many years in those slee stack reptilian offices where people dress nice and they talk nice and they have this 1,000-yard stare when you're talking with them because they're not listening. But they can make some stuff that's valuable for a society and a world that is questionable and not adding to any positive value, but actually degrading the state of our world, by that. It's the same people, I talk about this. I was talking about this yesterday or the day before. The engineers who have built all this stuff, and they're the same people who built the atomic bomb. And I watched Zuckerberg in the Senate hearings the other day. I think it was a month ago, but I just watched it not too long ago. And I mean, this guy, he's just the typical engineer. He takes no responsibility for the damage that he has caused so many children. He knows that the sex and death that he allows and promotes because it gets eyeballs, which gets ad revenue, he completely denies, like they all do, because they all get to go home to a really nice house because they're all rich as fuck on the backs of psychological devastation to our society. I was there. I worked right next to Facebook, man, right next to Google. Went to those places to do deals with those people. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm just glad I'm on the side I'm on, and I'm glad I know what I know. And I'm glad I'm not selling out for the bullshit, man, because, the only thing I have in this world that is pretty reactionary is that I have today to, try to forge a little baby step with some idea that I have in my mind. And it's usually a few different ideas with some few different things, you know. But I know that's why I get up. That's why I'm alive. Like I'm alive to be able to bring that to life, interact with other humans because of that, collaborate, and eventually hopefully give some good stuff away, in that process, not just an end product and all of that. It's the process of it and the interactions with the humans, and learning from each other, and hopefully, inspiring each other to keep going when when so many forces are just telling us to pack it up, So um, I'm going to work on some stuff today that is creative and some pragmatic stuff too, because that's life. But, you know, it's important. It's really important, because if that's extinguished, I know what it looks like. It looks like a person, who's hermetically sealed in a nice little package of life, but it's not theirs at all. It was designed in a simulation in the Matrix. So I love it. All right, you guys. I'm going to get to work on some stuff. I hope you guys have a great day. And hey, man, it's awesome. All right. Take care.